Hey guys, what's going on? I got a very special guest today. He's gracious enough to give me his time. He is Shayne Graham, one of the best kickers in Bengals history. He's now moved on with his life's work. Let's catch up with him. Here's Shayne. Hey Shayne, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well.
Good, good, good. So you are we're talking a little bit off the air here now. You are starting your own business right now and you're in Michigan. Is that where you're at right now?
Yes, yes. So when I was coaching, it's 15, sometimes 20-hour days. And a
Right.
lot of people don't actually understand that because they think, oh, we practice is only 2.5 hours.
Right.
But there's so much that is involved with that from, breaking down film of your opponents, film of your own team, finding your own weaknesses and strengths, finding the other team's strengths and weaknesses. Uh, and then just all the logistics that goes into planning how a practice runs so that every time the horn blows, everybody knows exactly where to run to practice and what drill to set up and what to
Right.
do during the drill and make sure that everybody's teaching the drill the right way. There's so many things that go into it. And I'm fairly obsessive over certain details in my life. So if I'm doing that and my name's on it, I try to do it the best I can. So it was taking so much of my daily life that it
Right.
just made it hard to really stay healthy, get sleep, take care of myself.
Right.
I'm married. It's hard to like expect my wife to see me for maybe the little bit of time it takes when I wake her up when I go to bed at 12 midnight, and then wake her up at 4:30 when I get up in the morning. So it just wasn't really fair. And you know, coaching was a passion. It wasn't necessarily something I needed to do for a living. So
Right.
I just decided that it wasn't fair to myself or my family to really kind of keep going through that. So I started a business where I can still coach,
Oh, cool.
but I'm not tied to one team. So I do
Okay.
consulting for different teams, all aspects of special teams, trying to help out every level I can. Especially the beginning levels, the high
Mhm.
school levels.
Right.
Uh, Coaches that don't always have the background in special teams to truly know how to teach the techniques of kickoff coverage, kickoff return, pump protection, all that kind of stuff. So it's been really fun to be able to kind of start dabbling in that. And then
Right.
also working with the higher level, with these introductory leagues that are kind of coming out, that USFL, the
Mhm.
XFL.
Mhm.
And then because my background is in kicking, um, I'm going to go into a little bit of the field of kind of the high end boutique training sessions.
Okay.
So it's not really going to be just let's take lessons. It's going to be the mental aspect. It's
Right.
going to be situational aspects. How to train properly when you're off the field, how to mentally train yourself on and off the field, and of course the technique and fundamentals of actually kicking, punting, snapping a football. But also going to a lot of these off-season training facilities where a lot of these guys go train and get ready for the combine and all that kind of stuff. Once the draft happens, I've kind of got it in place with a few of these places I'll go to, and I'll train all these rookies who have either been drafted or signed as free agents to help them understand not only the importance of what special teams is going to play in their career, but giving them a head start on learning some of the things that they're going to have to do with when they get to their respective teams.
Right.
Because as most people know, or maybe some people don't know, if you're not a first round or a second round or even a third round draft pick,
Right.
you make the team on special teams.
Right.
That's how you make the team.
That's a
And
job.
let's be honest, yeah. And
Right.
most of these college guys, even if they're drafted in the second, seventh round, sixth
Mhm.
round, fifth round, fourth round, whatever, most of those guys, and especially the undrafted guys, um, but these guys who even get drafted in the higher, like later picks, were probably still one of their college team's best players,
Right. Oh yeah.
especially if you come from a group of five or
Mhm. Mhm.
FCS or something like that. You end up uh, being kind of bubbled in your team's role because you're probably the best receiver, you're probably the
Right.
best linebacker, you're probably the best whatever. So you probably don't get too much of a special teams role.
Right.
So who knows what type of investment you actually put into those drills when you were in training camp and all that. So yeah, that's kind of where my passion is. I love kicking. I love it a lot, but I wanted to do more than just that. So this is a way that I can still kind of have that passion and, maybe make a business out of it and see
Right.
where it goes.
That's going on. Now it's interesting. You're talking about the mental aspect, and I'm wearing my shooter Evan McPherson jersey because he's exactly. Got to do the little little shooter motion. I think he's the best young kicker in the league right now after 1 year. I mean, but the thing that amazes me the most, and you know him because you helped coach him down in Florida, amazes me the most about him is his mental state where he doesn't get too high, he doesn't get too low,
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing bothers him. And that is really freaking hard to do because I've played sports nowhere close to the level that you played or what Evan plays. I get ticked off if something doesn't go right and I, lose all, my mind. Evan, very even keeled. I mean, he went out to the AFC Championship game and goes, "Oh, I guess we're going to go to the AFC Championship game," and he kicked the game-winning field goal. Like it was no big deal. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
all mental. Now, is that something that you work with him at Florida, or is it just something that's in him?
Well, I'd love to take credit for that. And maybe there are things that I could say like I helped him with on that measure, but he kind of already had that. I mean, he just had this almost a nonchalant confidence that a lot of guys seem to have on the outside, like on the surface.
Right.
But that's the thing is the guy that can never feel too high, never feel too low. They're the ones that if something doesn't go the right way, they can handle it. And they're the ones that when things go the right way, they can also handle it.
Right.
And, for some people who are on the outside looking in, you can see a guy like that and you almost take it as cockiness, but it's really not the case. It just means that they're not worried about everyone else's perception of how they are. They know that if I'm this way, this is going to make me better. And it's been ingrained in them. So it's not like he's faking it to be that way. He just is. And it's a great thing. And some people get that air of confidence through how much they prepare and how hard they work. And some people, who maybe didn't have it naturally, I think he's got a combination, and it's a rare gift of he has this unflappable confidence, but he also works and prepares really well to make sure that confidence is justified.
Right.
And, the only things that I really did with him, I never told him point your toe, turn your hip. I never told him any fundamental things.
Right.
We watched film and we would kind of look at little things to make sure that, you stay on your baseline and maybe you were a little off here and there. But I basically shared all the experiences I had, good and bad.
Right. And with a kicker, it's either going to be good or it's going to be bad. So you're always on that fine line.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, he got to hear my stories of everything from situational things that maybe he's never experienced that he's going to end up going through at some point. So he got to hear, in-depth stories. And I had a really good memory on a lot of these things. And a lot of them, I had them all written down because I did that during my career from practices to games.
We had like a journal or something you'd write everything down on?
I kept a journal every year.
Oh, cool.
And, every page of my journal was for every day. And some pages were deeper than others with text and some pages weren't.
Right.
But, I felt that for me to get to a certain point in one of my seasons and I wasn't kicking as well, or I didn't feel as confident or whatever, I could flip back and I would know like, hey, this is when I was riding high. Right. What did I feel like during that time?
Right.
And it kind of recenters and refocuses you to be in that same place again.
Right. That makes sense.
And, so when we would have time in practice or, if we were at dinner or whatever it might be, I could explain, hey, this is how bad it felt when I missed that kick against the Steelers to go to the playoffs.
Right.
And this is how I learned from it. And this is how I grew from it. Or, hey, this was my first game-winning field goal, and the first time Cincinnati had a Sunday night primetime game against the Dolphins in 2004.
I remember
This
that
is
game.
what it felt
Yep.
like. This is
Yep.
what you're going to go through, you know,
Right.
and through all those things, from my contract negotiations that led to me being franchised, the mistakes that I made in that way, the mistakes I made after my last game as a Bengal when I kind of rushed out of the locker room a little faster than I should have, and I didn't kind of make sure that I stood in front of the cameras and answered everything.
Right.
You know, all those regrets, I just wanted to make sure that he understood it. And then talking about all the things that can come up in a game that you might not really know about because you've never had to live it. And whether it be in Cincinnati or New England or wherever else I was, but, you know, just an example, like there's going to come a time during a game where you're down by 9 points.
Right.
And your team has the ball driving with 2 minutes and 15 seconds left in the game. And the head coach may decide, you know what, let's just kick the field goal now on first down, get to the 2-minute warning, do the onside kick, get the ball back, go down and score a touchdown. Because if we don't score on this drive, we don't have a chance either way.
Right.
But a field goal keeps you at least with a chance.
Right.
And, you know, I've run this scenario and I've seen it happen where the kicker's like down on the other side of the field because they're thinking, oh, we're down 9. We don't need a field goal. So I'll just wait till we score a touchdown and be ready for the PAT. Well, no, you have to be within eyesight of the head coach so that he can just say, you know what, let's kick it.
Right.
And you have to be ready. So just little things like that is really more of what I gave him. You know, I can't take credit for him being the physical good kicker that he is because he was that before I met him.
Right.
My job was really just to try to polish off any, you know, any edges that needed to be polished. And let me tell you, there weren't a lot that needed to be polished.
Yeah, he's one of the best young kickers I've ever seen in my life. I mean, for as young as he is, coming and kicking these situations. I mean, he kicked game-winning field goals during the season, during the playoff run. I mean, he's unbelievable. Now, one thing I want to bring back to where you're talking about where you were franchise tagged. Now, this is interesting because, as you know, Jesse Bates has been franchise tagged.
I see where Jesse Bates is dealing with that. And
right,
I do have some opinions on it.
Yeah. So how would you, if you were, you know, not that you're talking to Jesse Bates or anything, but if you had any advice to him, because he's come out and said that he's not going to go to OTA, he's not going to training camp, and he's not going to play on a franchise tag. And there's been good and bad. There's been guys who have done it and played on it, and it's worked out better for them. And there's been guys who have sat out and they got less money the next time. So what would be your advice with Jesse Bates right now?
So I dealt with this to a degree, and I really would just say, be a part of the team right now. Just be present.
Right.
Even though you may feel things may not be fair in your negotiations, be there for your team because it's bigger than just you right now.
Right.
And that's a tough thing to say because in an NFL career, you can only be a part of a team as long as you're allowed to be on that team.
Right.
We don't know when that ends. And it can be a very short window. So, you know, the thing is, you know, you cash in while you can.
Yeah,
and
you have to make as much money as you can when you can. I totally get that.
And but then there's also something that someone said to me one time, and this is nothing against him.
Right.
This was the mistake that I made.
Okay.
I was negotiating a contract. My agent was negotiating a contract in 2008, I believe. They were trying to get an extension built. They never got it. Okay. Then it was about to become a free agent for the 2009 season. Offers were wherever. There was a difference.
Right.
And someone said to me, how much is enough?
Right.
You know? And I look back on it and I was, you know, like, man, I kind of screwed that up because it meant more to me to be in Cincinnati, be solidified in a community, have a sense of belonging, a sense of home, and not have to move, go to another team, do all this stuff you're going to have to end up doing, even if they give you more money. I should have just stepped in and told my agent, hey, just get as close as you can to what they're saying so we can just get this thing and make it work, you know?
Right. Right.
And it ended up becoming, I got franchised.
Mhm.
And then I just know that like that scared me. And as
Right.
a player, you have to understand when you get franchised, everyone's like, oh, well, they're making all this money for that year. It's like, yes, it is. It is a
Right.
lot of money.
But
But what that does is that all that leverage you had going into that contract negotiation, which you rarely get because there's so many little fine windows of time that this happens, anything can take that away.
right.
So let's just say you get hurt in the first game or you get hurt in the last game. You all of a sudden you're not that guy that's being negotiated for a contract. You're a guy
Right.
hoping just to get another 1 year deal because they're afraid of your injury.
Exactly.
Okay. Or in my case, let's say you go to the playoffs, you have some stuff going on that you're not sorting out right in your head. You go play this game, and I'm not saying that as an excuse. My
Right.
job is to perform. I did not perform.
Right.
And I remember that feeling walking off that field. I was like, my God, I may never play here ever again.
Right.
And I didn't,
Right. Right.
but that one game, and I didn't have a horrible season. I didn't have my best season,
Right.
but I still had a percentage, a field goal percentage that was higher than most every other percentage before I got there. I had just had a few years where I had some percentages up in the 90s. I think I was at like 80 or 82% that season.
Your field goal percentage for your career is 85.5% is what I looked up.
Well, that's career.
Yes, career. Yes, for your
So
career.
in
Yes.
Cincinnati, I think I had averaged a little higher than that.
Okay.
Because when I was at Carolina, it was like, I don't know, 70 something. When I
Right.
was at Buffalo, hell, I don't know what I was there, but
Right.
either way, it wasn't my worst
Right.
of my career, but it was definitely not my best.
Right.
But that one game basically said, ooh,
Yeah.
ooh,
Yeah.
you
It only takes one. And that's
and all of a sudden, like in my mind, I felt like I was just this hated demagogue in the Cincinnati world. And and I get it. Like I was upset. Like it took me a long time to get over that game.
right.
I was driving back to Virginia when the game was over to go see my family. And I was afraid to go to a gas station because I thought someone would recognize me. So I had a friend take my car to the gas station because I was so emotionally I can't deal with it right now.
Right.
And
Right.
I drove home. I didn't come back for like 3 months. And then I put my house on the market and, ended up being offered a 1 year deal instead of the 5 year deal I was being offered. And I was like, no, I'm not taking a 1 year deal, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. And who knows? I probably should have taken that.
Yeah. I mean,
Because
Shane, hindsight's always 2020.
Always
We
20/20.
can always, there's so many things in my lifetime I can go back, like I should have done this and
Yeah.
I did that. I mean, you can always do that, but
I mean, now I still played for several years,
yeah.
but I was playing musical goalposts. I mean, I was here, I was there, I was here. I have this hobby of making like mini helmets and collecting football helmets, and I had this thing framed for me, which has all the jerseys of all the teams I've played in. It's got a game jersey from every team.
I got 18. Is that how many? Is that how many you have? 18 different teams? Is that what?
I played in 10 with 10 teams in the regular season.
Okay.
As you can see, those are all the helmets I've ever
yeah. Okay,
worn
I see it back there now. Yeah.
Middle school, high school, college, and then all the way through.
You got the Arena Football League back there too, because that's where you started.
I do not have that one because it just in order for me to fit that box thing.
Right, I got you.
Plus, it was one game, and it was like I did it as a favor anyway. But this jersey thing, it was like huge, and I had all these jerseys in it, and actually, it was framed in Cincinnati by Urban Framing, and they did an amazing job for it. But when I talk about this with people, they're like, "Oh, you played for so many teams." And while it was cool, I met a lot of friends, met a lot of people, made a lot of network connections. It'd have been nice to just be in one place,
Right. Yeah. That's what there's lots of guys like that, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It just happens happens how it happens. And that's
Oh,
kind of where we're at with Jesse Bates is it's kind of weird because he said he doesn't have to be the highest paid safety in the league, but that's where I'm kind of like, well, is it the guaranteed money? Is it, and I have no idea. I'm just a fan, but that's I'm kind of with
yeah.
you. What
I don't know the specifics of it. I mean,
right,
I just know for me, the reason that I showed like visible, um, you know, dissent with me being franchised is I just wanted to stay and be somewhere.
right,
Where I made the mistake is I let things get in my head to say that, well, at the time I think I had like the highest field goal percentage
right,
in,
right.
in, in the NFL, in the history of the NFL, by maybe a whatever.
Yeah.
But so my brain was like, well, obviously I should be the highest paid guy.
Duh.
And like nothing like Justin Tucker's going to get right, anytime soon.
Right.
But I was wrong.
Yeah.
It just should have been like, you know what? I'm blessed to be making any of this.
Right.
So just something that just makes a little bit of sense, and I should have been okay with that. And I made a huge mistake, and but I think back on it, and I'm like, you know what? Hindsight's 2020. I would have done this. I would have done that.
Right.
But things worked out in my life where I met people in my life I would have never met had I not been all over the place.
Right.
Who knows if I would have got into coaching? Who knows if, I would, who knows if I stayed in shape and continued training? I mean, I kicked this past summer and I could still kick 60 and 65-yard field goals.
Nice.
I just don't know that my body could take it for the whole year.
Right. Right.
But who knows? Maybe I could be like Adam Vinatieri.
Yeah.
But I'm also very happy where I am, living the life that I'm living. And I probably wouldn't have this if I had not made those mistakes. So
right. And the best thing is, as long as you're happy now, that's the most important thing. As long as you're happy in the moment, the past is the past. We can't do anything about it. It is what it is. I mean, that's just
absolutely.
That's just the way things are. But you played for, I think, one of the best special teams coaches in the league, Darren Simmons.
Oh, yeah.
Darren, if you're watching, I'm still waiting for you to come on my show, which he told me he would. What was it like playing for Darren? How did he help you out in your career?
So Darren's one of those few guys that I like to say gets it.
Right.
Darren was a punter at University of Kansas, but Darren was also a very talented quarterback. I mean, he knows the game of football.
Mm-hmm.
If he ever takes another job, it's going to be a head coach.
Are you surprised that hasn't happened yet for him? Because they got to be involved in everything, I mean,
it's hard to have an opinion on that because when I was coaching, I thought there were so many opportunities that I was going to get.
Right.
Especially the more I climbed the ladder with the level of teams that I coached for.
Right.
And I had all these people tell me like, yeah, you're going to be the guy that we hire and bring in. I had several NFL jobs lined up, thought it was going to happen. And things would just one little thing out of the matrix, like wouldn't let it happen.
Right.
So I know there's a whole lot involved with it. But when you talk about like special teams coaches, so I learned so much of my style of coaching from Darren. I mean, and Darren has been very gracious. One, after I left Cincinnati, Darren and I stayed very close. Like we talked on the phone, we texted, we visited, like all kinds of things. When I got into coaching, he just opened his arms and said, let me show you the way. And he would let me come sit in his office with him for hours and just take notes or ask questions or just have conversations or shadow or whatever.
Right.
And it was a great thing to have because it gave me confidence, but it also kept me humble that I didn't really know as much as I thought I was going to know.
Right.
And then the more I learned, there would always be one little thing that he could like sharpen that edge and be like, maybe you need a little bit more.
Right.
And it was really cool the way that like the dynamic worked. And it was, I think even during the season, if I had questions about, ways to beat certain schematic things with my opponents, I would send him a picture of it, of a drawing and say, hey, what's the best way to beat this? Or what do you think about this?
Right.
And he would give suggestions. We would have conversations back and forth. And then there was also a thing of when I was at Florida my first year, I was sending him videos of a certain kicker they had for an entire year before he was eligible for the draft.
Really? Which kicker was that?
Can't remember his name, but yes. So he had seen a lot of video of that guy before he ever even came and worked him out, for his pro day and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I think he had a little bit of a head start on that, I believe.
Right. Right. Well, us Bengals fans, we appreciate you helping Darren out in that way. And
who's to say that Darren wouldn't have recognized it? Because hey, every other team that didn't have that head start was also on him too.
But I think every little bit will help, though. So we'll take it. I mean, it always helps. So let's get into the 2021 Bengals, the season they had, the run they had. That's a silly question, but I probably could answer it for you. But did you see that coming?
Be honest, this is the first year, and even though I was still coaching at Florida, this is the first year I caught myself taking the time, because like Sundays are game planning days,
right?
Kind of like Tuesdays in the NFL for coaches.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the day where we don't see our players. And it's nothing but staff meetings, and then you're at your computer and you're grinding and you're digging all day long. So, I would put my iPad over here and have like whatever game I could get through, whatever streaming device on my app, and then I have the TV up in the corner, and I would have like Red Zone going. But I really didn't have the volume up very loud because I didn't want to be a distraction. But every now and then, take a drink, I'll take a look up at it. And I started seeing like more and more like Bengals highlights and Bengals games. And I was like, and really Kevin and Clark are the only guys that I still know.
I was going to ask you that because I actually was on another podcast with Clark Harris. He talked to us for like 3.5 hours Saturday night. It was unbelievable. But yeah, I thought Clark was there when you were there, but and Huber, right? I couldn't remember. Sorry.
Yeah. So Kevin was drafted the before the 2009 season, and then Clark was brought in after week something or other when they moved on from Brad St. Louis, who is still to this day a dear friend of mine.
Right.
But Clark came in, and Clark did a great job. I mean, obviously Kevin's done a great job, but so it was really hard for me to truly have like this overwhelming sense of fanfare.
Right.
But I'll tell you, like, something was, because Evan was there, I paid attention more because I wanted to see Evan do well.
Right.
But there was more than that. There was just this overwhelming sense that something was different. And I don't know if it was because I really just started kind of paying attention to Bengals Twitter because of Evan. I don't know.
Right.
But I just started seeing like this different sense that I had never noticed before.
Right.
And it doesn't mean it wasn't there. It just means I noticed it. So I started paying attention. I started seeing like a lot of these, people that were kind of in the Twitterverse of the Bengal Twitterverse.
Right.
I started paying attention. And then I started interacting with people more. And it felt good because while there are still those people that were like, oh, you kept us from going into the second round of playoffs.
Whatever.
You know what? And I said, yeah, you know what? I'm sorry. I hated that for the team, and I hated it for me. And I owed you guys more.
Right.
And more people that were starting out as negative were like, you know what? He's human. It's been a long time. Let's go. Okay.
Exactly.
But then you just had all those people that were like, hey, we always understood. No hard feelings. Right. And then you just had people that were genuine, like just nice and whatever, and never even brought it up. And throughout these interactions, I just felt more and more connected. And all of a sudden, before you know it, like I'm like looking for my old Bengals gear so I can like wear it with pride. And then like, well, shoot, I'm just going to order some new stuff.
There you go.
And, so I ended up getting a little bit more gear. And, I started actually, yelling at the TV when I'm watching games or celebrating like out loud or whatever. And, I'm having a Super Bowl party at my house, or actually for all the playoff games, but at my house. And I'm geared up. My wife's geared up, and my friends are all over. One guy was going for the other team, so I'm talking smack to him, and I'm jumping up and screaming. And it was just a feeling that I had never had as a fan, because I was a Chicago Bears fan in the early '80s because my dad told me they had this really good running back called Sweetness.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
And that was the extent of my childhood football. And then from that point on, especially when it became a reality that I could potentially play in the NFL, or a goal and then a reality,
right?
I always told myself, don't be a fan, because if you want to go somewhere and you don't go there, then you'll be upset.
Right.
So I always tended to be like open. So it's been really cool to be a fan again. And, it's also cool that I have like a lot of very genuine gear.
Yeah.
And I get to, if I showed up at the facility, there's guys that work at the security that would be like, hey, come on in. And, there's still, Darren, and there's people within the organization that would welcome me with open arms. I went to dinner at Carlo and Johnny's last time I was in town, and Troy and Katie Blackburn came up and talked to me at the table. And
awesome.
It's a motion detected at the garage. But anyway, it was fun to just feel that like feeling again, like it was 2005.
Right.
And that was probably where I felt like, man, this feels good. This is what I dreamed of when I was a kid.
Right.
To be a part of that community and the success of the 2004 and 5 team. But the 5 team was the one that really kind of broke through. So to be able to start to feel a little bit of that feeling again, even as a fan or alumni or however you want to see it, it made me feel really warm to feel like I was a part of like Bengal Nation again,
Exactly. And Shayne, anytime you come in town, if you ever come and tailgate with us Bengals fans, we got a couple really cool tailgates you can come hang out with. We'll play some cornhole, shotgun some beers, have some fun before the game, get ourselves all nice and ready to go.
Not only will that happen, but I'll be mad if I don't.
All right. I like that. Just hit me up. I'll tell you the best places to go.
Absolutely. And having paid attention to all the Bengals Twitter, I've connected with a lot of those people, like that show really cool things from their tailgates.
Oh yeah. Like I said, there's multiple ones. And I know people, that's what kills me is like last year, I think it was SI said, Cincinnati is one of the worst places to tailgate ever. I'm like, have you actually been there? There's all kinds of great tailgates. I mean, and they're all around the stadium. I mean, I'll put our tailgating up against anybody's, but I'm biased. So we'll see.
I mean, I see some of the buses and all the cool stuff that you guys have.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Bengal Jim's got a stage set up, and he's got his own. Bengal Jim's probably he's had Jonathan India show up, Kay Adams from NFL Network show up to his. I mean, he has all kinds.
I'll be there. I'll reach out to him and make sure that I get an invite to that. I'm going to invite myself.
Hey, yeah, I'll invite you. You're already invited. I already know the answer to that one, so you can definitely show up anytime you want there. So the 2021 or 2022 season here, I think this is the best team that the Bengals and Zach Taylor have had in the Zach Taylor era. As far as talent wise, now with Jesse Bates, they're more talented. Without him, we'll leave that aside there. And it's hard to repeat and go back to the Super Bowl, but they fixed the one thing that was really bugging them. It was the offensive line. What are the chances, in your opinion, of them trying to get back and repeat and actually win the Super Bowl this year?
Well, I can promise you they're trying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can promise they're trying. We all know it's tough. I mean, if you look at pro sports in general, I think football is one of the hardest sports to win a championship in.
Okay.
And, the stars aligned in so many different ways for New England to win the way that they have over the last, 2 decades.
Right.
Multiple layers, the coaching staff, the players they brought, the culture they had. the lack of superstars, except for Tom Brady and one or two other guys,
Right.
it just all just was cohesive, and it's crazy. I was there for a season. I saw how it works, and it's an amazing thing. It is so tough because in your division you play each other twice. That's it. How you win those games has a lot to do with how you seed and how you make the playoffs. And then it's one and done after that when you get to the playoffs.
Right.
You look at basketball, baseball, all those sports, and you look in the playoffs of a baseball game, and one team might win the first game 8-0.
Right.
Then they lose the next game 8-0.
Right.
It's such a flip-flop of who's on a hot streak, who's batting well, who's got a good pitcher fresh for this game. Like, there's all these little things that go into that, but I think there are still things that play into those that just make it different. Whereas with football, you got one chance.
Right.
And you play that game, and if it's a bad call, if it's somebody's cleats slip and the quarterback gets sacked right before he could have thrown an open touchdown pass down the sideline.
Kind of like our Super Bowl. Oh.
Yeah. So you have these little variables that each variable is like exponential compared to what I think these sports that play series.
Right.
And, football is just too brutal of a sport to play series like that. So to me, I just feel like it's really hard to do, because let's just say you lose your quarterback. It's so hard to overcome losing your star leader, just everything that person brings to the team. But then, you lose a left tackle, you lose a right tackle, you lose a number one target receiver. Like, every now and then you might find someone like, oh, his backup's pretty good, and that guy turns into somebody.
Right, and you lose your job.
Yeah, Rudy Johnson wasn't Rudy Johnson until Corey Dillon left.
Yep, exactly.
You have so many variables that can play out that can either hurt you or help you, but it's just so tough because the ball's not round and it doesn't bounce exactly where you think it's going to bounce.
Exactly. I think they have a shot, but like I said, who knows what's going to happen? It's really a difficult thing to do. Now, real quick, you've given me over 30 minutes. I appreciate it.
No worries. When we're done, we're done.
Awesome. Okay, so I had a couple questions that people tweeted me out that wanted me to ask. Now, what's like a locker room story that you can tell over the internet without incriminating anybody or anything like that? What's a really good locker room story you got from back in the day?
Man, I got to be careful on this.
See, when I asked you that, I already liked your eyes. Like, how do I say this?
So it's to be honest with you, there's a certain kind of code that not just with Cincinnati, but just in the NFL and even college football.
I'm not asking you to break it.
Yeah. So you know what?
It's a tough question, I think.
Man, it's tough because.
All right, how about this? Let's go this way.
I'll do this.
All right.
I'll keep it anonymous.
Yeah, that's fine.
Anonymous. So there was a game, a very important game, where if you lost, you didn't play anymore.
Okay.
There was a little. There was rumblings, like you heard like a little bit of scuttlebutt between some players.
Right.
And all of a sudden, there's a play that happens in the game. A certain player scores a touchdown on this play for the other team. The defensive back coach goes to someone, and I don't even know if it was defensive back coach. It could have been the linebacker coach because, someone scores.
Right.
This person is being given like, hey, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Why, whatever.
Right.
He goes, that's your fault. You knew I couldn't cover him. You
should have put me in that position, coach.
And I promise you, like if I sat and like thought about a few things, there's plenty of tame, entertaining stories I might be able to tell. I'm a little on the spot, but
No, yeah,
there are things that I know would be entertaining.
right. No, I got you.
But it's not fair to the players that when you become a part of this brotherhood, you just don't call guys out.
No, I totally get that. So how about this? Who was like the funnest guy in the locker room or the biggest practical joker or something like that? Who are guys like that?
You know, so the guys that I got along with the most and that stand out to me as not just teammates but like brothers.
Yeah.
So like Frosty Rucker was my best friend. He was best man at my wedding. Like just him and I are super tight. We had a lot of fun. Dhani Jones. There were quite a few guys that we had a group that we always went out to dinner together.
Right.
We had a lot of fun. Like I could goof off when the time was right. Like I used to have I'll tell a story.
Okay.
So I used to have a little prank war with Paul Sparling.
Okay.
And we would always just pull little pranks on each other. And, one was like Army crawled into his office and took an air horn and blew it under his desk. He would find little things to do to me, but the worst one he ever got me, and this one's maybe a little PG-13, but it was just
it's the internet. We're all right.
I'm just going to tell it. So we had taken our physicals.
Okay.
Where they do blood testing for all kinds of stuff, right?
Right.
So he comes up to me the week after because we're told on certain tests that no news is good news, but it'll be in about a week.
Right.
So, which it's not the 80s anymore, so we're not really as scared as we used to be, but still, it's reality.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Hey Shayne, come here. I got to talk to you." Well, he read the room and he knew that I had thought it had been a week. And he pulled me out of the locker room to come into the training room and talk to him. He read the look on my face and he's like, "Yeah, we got to go talk over here." And I was just like,
"Oh crap!"
And he's like, "I'm just kidding. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Lord, I apologize." Like all he was talking to me about was to film a little like message to send to his son's school to like encourage somebody,
right.
whatever.
He had to make you feel like crap before that happened.
Oh.
It scared the crap out of you.
Man, and like it's reality, like there's things out there that are scary, somebody pulls that joke on you, like it.
Right. Well, you're just talking about how quickly your career can end earlier in this broadcast. A bad kid getting hurt, something like that. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's reality. So he's like, when reality mixed in with a joke, it's like that wasn't really that funny.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Am I going to have to join forces with Magic Johnson here or what?
Exactly. Oh my goodness. So, all right. So we had Darren Simmons. You were with the Thunder God, Clark Harris, and you also got to play with Brad St. Louis. Who was, I guess, one of your favorite teammates? I guess that'd be, or I won't say favorite, but not to pick one out better than the other. But I mean, just guys that I know you already said Frosty Rucker, but who are other guys that you're still friends with? We'll put it that way.
Well, I've kind of lost touch with this person, but Rich Bram was one of my favorites.
Oh, Rich Bram, yeah.
Yeah, he was one of my favorites. I mean, he was as blue collar and no nonsense, just good old boy. Like you couldn't ask, in my opinion, for just someone that, not that anybody else, because I never really dealt with this much in the NFL, except for a few guys, but I'm a lineman, you're just a kicker,
right?
Whatever.
Right.
Richie was just always like, and Scott Kustra. I really like Scott Kustra. And I'm sorry, I just realized who the funniest person was.
Okay, who you got?
Justin Smith.
Really? Justice Smith?
Oh, Justin Smith.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just thinking about him doing impersonations of all the coaches and stuff. Um, yeah, I completely forgot about him, but Justin was a hard worker.
Yeah.
And just always goofing off. But Rich, Rich was just such a good dude. Like he knew that I was into a lot of do it yourself, manly things around the house and whatever. Right. He was like, "Hey, I got a deal with DeWalt. If you go do this signing, they'll give you like whatever, like 5,000 worth of tools." And I was like,
"Sweet. Done."
Sign me up.
Right, exactly.
And like he was just the kind of guy that would just go out of his way to do stuff for people. And I always wished he had a little more fanfare. And when he was there, because when he left, things weren't the same.
No. I mean, well, it's offensive line. That's the history of the offensive line for Cincinnati Bengals. Unfortunately, we'll get a couple good ones, and then as soon as one guy leaves, and it all starts crumbling, and our offensive line kind of stinks for a couple years again, which is what we hopefully have fixed this year. Now, we talked about the bad times a lot, but you did have a Pro Bowl season in 2005. What was that like actually getting to go? Because you guys go to Honolulu, which they don't do that.
Yeah.
How fun was that?
It was amazing. I think the NFL screwed up when they. Let me rephrase that.
Okay.
I think the NFL knew they could make more money if they brought it back here.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
The stateside, because it's become a spectacle versus an actual all-star game.
Well, nobody plays. You really even tackle each other, which I understand.
And there's a bonus for the winning team, and they used to have we had the skill competition thing where
that's actually a lot of fun to watch. The skill competition, I actually enjoy that more in the game now, to be honest.
Yeah. So when I did it, I got to play horse, and it was a lot of fun. But and actually it was against Neil Rackers, who was the kicker before me.
Yeah.
But and we had a lot of fun, and we actually signed an agreement. We had the same agent. We signed an agreement that said we were going to split the money half and half, no matter who won.
Right.
So because the loser got 10, the winner got 20. So we just said, you know what, we're both going to get 15. So it's for fun,
Right.
So we had a great time with it, and but it was like a treat.
Right.
And it was a reward. Because you got this vacation, they paid for you, significant other. If you wanted to I brought Brad St. Louis and his wife. I brought Kyle Larson, our former punter, and his wife. In fact, I sent them a week earlier so they could have their honeymoon, because he got married the year before and had to come straight into minicamp and didn't get a chance to go to a honeymoon. So I was like, here's your honeymoon.
Right.
Merry Christmas.
That's not bad. I'll take that.
Yeah. So it was fun because, the practices were 45 minutes long, very simple offense and defense. Special teams was very straightforward, not a lot of schematic changes or, trickery or anything. And then, at the end of practice at the team breakdown, the coach said the last one to the bar for Mai Tais had to run conditioning the next day. So it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun.
And you learned never say your room number out loud.
Oh, I got to hear why. Why is that?
So when you go, when it was in Hawaii, now I don't know what it's like now, but when it was in Hawaii, it was at a resort called the Iolani.
Okay.
And it was like you couldn't get into the hotel or on the premises without a lanyard,
Right.
I'm with so-and-so or I am so-and-so.
Right.
So when you go to the pool bar, there was no, there were no people there asking for pictures or autographs, anything like that. It was guys could just relax, let loose. If guys wanted to drink and feel a little silly, then, they didn't have to feel like they were being judged or anything.
Right.
So if you are a first-year Pro Bowler, you are considered a rookie. Didn't matter if you were 10 years in the NFL.
Right.
So for me, that was my fourth year, I believe. Mm-hmm. I was a rookie.
Right.
And I started hearing some of the other guys that were being cool about it, hey, be careful. Don't say your room number out loud. And I was like, well, why? They're because the veterans will start to give your room number and draw a huge tab on it. And it is tradition that you have to pay it.
Aha, I gotcha.
Yeah. So that was something that I was very wary of because I was early in my career,
Right.
and even though I probably blew money on other stuff, I really didn't feel like having $3,000 bar tabs.
Right. Right. Exactly. Like, hey, Shane, what's your room number? I don't know. I don't have it on me right now. I have to go tell you
Yeah,
later. It's like it just slips my mind.
absolutely.
Exactly. Well,
I,
Shane,
I,
I go ahead, man. Go ahead.
and I do think one thing that I think the NFL screwed up on as well
Okay.
is making it the week before the Super Bowl.
Really? I kind of
Because,
like that.
well, I'll just
This
tell
coming
you,
from a fan's perspective, not a player's perspective.
as a
So
player, when we got there, it was the week after the Super Bowl, or maybe 2 weeks. I don't remember exactly what it was,
mhm.
but we all got there on let's just say it was a Monday. I don't know what day it was.
Right.
Uh, we've practiced a couple days, and then all of a sudden it was like this, like everything got quiet because all the guys who played for the Steelers, I think they won it that year, walks in to the practice field late, like unstrapped, and all this, and
Right.
it was like, oh, they just got back from their parade,
Right. Yeah. Whatever.
and and it wasn't like, oh wow, these guys are awesome. It was like, man, I want to be that guy,
Yes.
So like it was like this like rite of passage type thing that everyone always knew, that the Super Bowl winners showed up a few days later,
Right.
and everyone was like, then it was just like they got all this attention, and it was just something that it made people like, man, I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And like it was just it meant something within the community of guys that like these guys did what we all want more than we even want to be here.
Right.
And it was a really cool thing to experience. And I just think that when you immediately take out the guys who go to the Super Bowl, they don't get the chance to be a part of that.
Right.
Maybe it doesn't mean as much anymore because it's in Orlando, or it's in Vegas, or it's wherever it's going to be.
Right.
I just don't feel like it's the vacation. I think it's turned into more of a party.
Yeah.
And not that we didn't, party by any means while we
Right.
were there,
Right.
but there's just something to be said about ocean and just the tropical feeling, and
It's
it's
freaking
just not the
Hawaii.
same. It's not the same as Florida,
Yeah.
it's not even Miami, because
Right.
Miami is a little more commercial. It's a little more party cultured or whatever.
Right.
It was just more relaxed, and I just felt like you were on a vacation, but you played a little bit of football.
I think that's the whole vibe of Hawaii, though. They're just, just laid back, chill,
Yeah,
put the lei
yeah.
on, have a drink with the umbrella on it, and just chill. I think that's. I've never been to Hawaii, but that's what it looks like to me. Hopefully
It's
someday
probably
I'll get to go there.
it's one, like if you ever go on a tropical vacation, it's the only time that I feel like I can justify a fruity drink. I mean,
Right? Yeah.
um,
Exactly.
if I'm drinking an adult beverage, it's typically over ice, and that's it.
Right. Right.
So you got a little color to it, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Uh,
but
but
normally now if I see something, it's either clear or brown. So that's
exactly. I'm with you on that. I like the fruit drink. That's what I always call it. That's for my wife because she always wants to drink. She goes, I want to drink with about that much alcohol in it and like that much of the flavoring. So she wants to the relaxation of the alcohol, but she doesn't want to taste it. I said, it doesn't really work out too well. I mean, but she doesn't drink that much anyway, so it works out good for her. That's what I
yeah,
always tell her. She always wants those. And I'm always with, give me a beer or give me a bourbon and whiskey or whatever. That's kind of
yeah,
where I'm at.
yeah.
So anyway, Shane, I appreciate you coming on. You've been on for almost an hour, man. I this is longer than I thought I would. I appreciate you jumping on. And like I said, we met on Twitter yesterday. That was cool. What else? Do you got anything you want to plug before I let you go?
Uh, I mean, honestly, really, just if there's anyone that where I do all this kind of consulting, coaching type deal,
Right.
I will be doing instruction for
Okay.
kickers and punters. If there's anyone that's listening that wants that, there are some people that I've kind of already made agreements that I'm going to help their son out or whatever with without, because it was reached out to me at a certain time that I was like, you know what, I'll help.
Right.
But also, I can't just justify my time away from my family and do everything for free.
Right.
But I do work with people. I understand. Like I had help along the way, and I couldn't always afford certain things. So I try to be as respectful as I can to understanding where people are in life
Right.
and what they can afford to do or not. But I have a passion for coaching and helping people. So if I put together any type of trips to Cincinnati, if there's you have a high school kid, middle school kid, just reach out to me on Twitter, and I'll try to see what I can do. No promises, but the traveling part, that's the time it takes and all that. But
so you're up to what, Grand Rapids? Is that where you say you're up there in
yes,
Michigan? So
yes,
that's like what, 4 hours from Cincinnati, I think.
about 5, I
Five.
think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I know it's like 4 hours to like Cleveland and Detroit. I don't know if I've ever been to Grand Rapids. I don't know. My son played travel hockey, and when he was in high
Yeah,
school, we
so
traveled
instead
all
of
over.
it being a straight shot up 75, you got to cut across Indiana.
Right, exactly. Well, if you ever do anything like that in Cincinnati and you want to promote it, just let me know. We'll get you on the show and we can talk about it again, and I'll definitely tweet it out and everything. I think you have more followers than I do, but I'll help you out
You know
as
what
much as I
though?
can. What's that?
When social media got going, I've only been on Twitter for like 4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
I never really chased following.
Right.
They've kind of begun to happen organically over the last year, but
Mhm.
I just never really. I don't. I think there's a net negative with a lot of internet stuff,
Oh
so
yeah.
I try not to get too much. So one thing you'll see is I keep everything positive. I stay away from anything negative.
I try to do it as much as I can because there's so much negative out there, and that's one thing that I've tried to do with my show here is especially when it comes to the Bengals over the last couple years. The narrative for the Bengals. Oh, it's the Bengals. They can't do this. They never won. Yada yada yada. And I'm like, that's not true. Like we didn't have a practice bubble, which we have one now, or it's getting built. We didn't have a Ring of Honor. Well, we have one now. We didn't have any good players. That's bullcrap. Yes, we did. We've had really good players that should be in the Hall of Fame that aren't. We only got one in there. And I know I said to let you go, but I'll ask you this real quick.
At least our river doesn't catch on fire.
At least our river doesn't catch on fire. Exactly. I'm hoping this year we get another Bengal in, either Willie Anderson, Ken Riley, Kenny Anderson, somebody. Like Shayne, we've got one player in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and he is the greatest left tackle ever. I mean, I don't think anybody will argue with that. But Ken Anderson, Ken Riley still has the 65 interceptions is still the record for most interception. We got Willie Anderson, one of the greatest right tackles. Which you played with Willie Anderson, so I mean, you know how good Willie was. What do we have to do to try to get it through the Pro Football Hall of Fame's head that we have players that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame?
I think it's starting to get there, and I think where there was this big campaign this past year, and Willie was nominated.
Yeah.
I don't know as much about Riley or Ken Anderson. I don't know as much about them, but I just know playing with Willie, knowing what Willie's statistics were as far as what he was able to keep from happening to quarterbacks, as much and his knowledge of the game and understanding it blows my mind. But I think we're inching closer to getting to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But as you know, it is a very, 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 making it into the NFL is a 1.0 something percentage of all high school football players, and then all of a sudden you think making it into the Hall of Fame. I mean, if you think every year it gets diluted with more and more people that become a part of that conversation. So
exactly,
it's going to be tough, but I really hope that it works for Willie, just because I'm close with him and I don't know the other guys. I hope it works for them as well. Also have some, say some thoughts and prayers for Willie, because he's dealing with some issues right now. So
yeah, he's been even if you follow him on Twitter, he's been posting pictures and keeping up to date on what he's going through. So hopefully, everything will come out roses for Willie. And like I said, hopefully, I got a feeling he's getting in the Ring of Honor this year for the Bengals. He's one of them. And I hope to God he gets in the NFL Hall of Fame, because the Pro Football Hall of Fame, because it is a travesty that one Bengals only have one. And Willie Anderson, come on, he's got to be the one of the best. You only say I have to say tackles, right tackle, left tackle, whatever. One of the best tackles to ever play this game. It's ridiculous.
I agree.
Well, Shayne, again, I appreciate you. You gave me a whole hour. That is awesome. You are the man. Go follow Shayne. Check out if you want to learn how to become a kicker. Maybe you reach out to him. Maybe he'll come and help your children out. And other than that, Shayne, I appreciate you. Appreciate you, brother. Hoo day.
Thank you. Hoo day.